Welcome back, focused learners. Today's explainer explores one of the absolute most fascinating contradictions we see in modern life. I mean, think about it. We are constantly being told that success requires relentless grinding, optimizing, and just nonstop hustling, right? But when we actually look at the data around personal finance and wealth building, we uncover this massive, almost funny irony. It turns out that building wealth might literally be the single domain on Earth where putting in extra effort is actually a penalty. It's a game where the most hyperactive players are usually the ones losing the hardest.
Okay, let's dive into this with a perfect real-world contrast. Meet Danny. Danny is active, okay? He's making like 200 trades a year and checking his stock ops at literally every red light. But then, on the flip side, we have Priya. Priya made exactly one index fund purchase back in 2019, literally lost her account password, and hasn't even logged in since. The punchline? Priya is absolutely crushing Danny financially. We've all been sold this idea that wealth is some kind of reward for outsmarting everyone else in the room. But as you're going to see, it's actually a reward for extreme restraint.
And this isn't just some fun little anecdote. It's heavily backed by the biggest hitters in finance. According to the Spiva report, which, by the way, tracks professional fund managers whose entire full-time job is to beat the market, over a 15-year period ending in 2024, almost 90% of these professionals lost to a simple, lazy index fund. Let that sink in. Almost 90%. That means the people sitting at Bloomberg terminals with whole teams of analysts are overwhelmingly losing to the strategy of basically just buying everything and going back to sleep.
But wait, it gets even more expensive when we start factoring in human psychology and management fees. A firm called Dalbar tracks what average investors actually earn versus what the market returns. And over a 20-year period, they found a gap of just a little over 1% a year. Now, you might be thinking, hey, 1% doesn't sound like a lot, right? But over 2 decades, that tiny little gap costs active investors roughly a fifth of their total wealth. They are literally paying 20% of their potential fortune just for the privilege of needlessly handling their own money. Doing absolutely nothing is incredibly lucrative. So if doing nothing is the goal, when is the hardest time to actually do it? Well, it's right here, the $100,000 milestone. This is a critical threshold, really, because it's the point where compound growth actually starts doing more of the heavy lifting than your physical income. Think about it. If you earn an 8% return on $10,000, it's just $800. No big deal. But an 8% return on $100,000, that's $8,000. That's more than most people's annual raise. Ironically, because your money finally looks like a real substantial number, this is the exact moment where the temptation to abandon your boring strategy becomes overwhelmingly dangerous.
And this brilliantly illustrates the danger in practice. Let's look at 3 classic traps people fall into right after hitting 6 figures. First up, Diana's confidence. Her boring strategy worked so well, she honestly felt like a genius, started trading options, and watched $26,000 absolutely plummet to $3,100 in just weeks. Yikes. Then we have Carla's impatience. She wanted to speed up her growth using margin loans, but when the market dropped, she was forced to sell at the absolute bottom. And finally, Maya's fear. She panicked during a completely normal 9% market dip, moved her life savings to cash, and entirely missed the massive 14% market recovery that followed. Confidence, impatience, and fear. Those are the 3 emotions that destroy perfectly good financial plans.
Which honestly brings a whole new context to Warren Buffett's famous rule. The first rule is don't lose money. The second rule is don't forget rule number 1. Now, most people think Buffett is just talking about avoiding bad stock picks, but based on what we just learned, the real meaning of this quote is about protecting your portfolio from your own psychological sabotage. It's about not losing your money to yourself.
So how do you actually protect yourself? Well, you follow these 7 boring rules used by a normal guy named John who smoothly grew his 100K to over 140K without any of the drama. First, he increased his emergency fund to handle life's little surprises. Second, he rebalanced deliberately, not emotionally. Third, he fully automated his future contributions. Fourth, he locked in a strict 3 to 5% risk ceiling for any speculative plays. Fifth, he avoided margin and leverage entirely. Sixth, he wrote down his exact response to a market drop before it actually happened. And seventh, he only checked his accounts on a strict quarterly schedule. No checking apps at red lights. Just boring, automated, scheduled wealth building.
But seeing all this brings up a massive, undeniable question. Let's pull back the curtain for a second. If the ultimate mathematically proven secret to building wealth is essentially just to do nothing and follow a few basic automated rules, Why is the financial media industry so incredibly loud? Why are there thousands of videos, courses, and advisors out there screaming for your attention right now?
Section 1. Packaging the financial expert. The business of trust.
Because the advice itself is boring and largely free, the financial industry has to manufacture authority, engineer trust, and carefully package themselves in order to sell you the exact same lazy advice we literally just discussed. Let's look at how they actually do it. It all starts with professional polish. Collie Collective is an agency that literally sells a 45-day done-for-you brand setup specifically for registered investment advisors, or RIAs. They meticulously craft the advisor's brand guide, they optimize their SEO, they write their email templates, and they even design their client onboarding documents. They are literally manufacturing that aura of corporate trustworthiness from scratch in just a month and a half. The whole goal is just to make the advisor look incredibly established and safe to their target audience.
And online creators? Yeah, they are running a very similar playbook. This timeline is pulled directly from the Creators Agency playbook for growing a finance YouTube channel. Look at how incredibly calculated this is. Month 1, they aren't just making videos. They are targeting one highly specific viewer. Month 2, they engineer trust by answering specific questions and flashing credible sources on screen. By month 6, they aren't just teaching finance anymore. They are packaging their audience, an audience that clearly has money to invest, into a slick media kit to pitch to lucrative corporate sponsors.
Let's move to and see how this builds in a real-world conversation featuring YouTube expert Evan Carmichael. There was this real estate agent named Brian who was teaching basic financial literacy to 23-year-olds in his living room for free. Great, right? But when figuring out how to scale this, the advice wasn't just to make helpful videos. It was to package the whole thing into a channel called Complete Money Playbook and immediately pitch a local bank to sponsor the content. We are literally watching the exact moment genuine, helpful living room knowledge is transformed into a monetized, sponsored media product.
Section 2. The AI Clone Machine. Farming the finance niche. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is where this entire ecosystem is heading next. That highly polished, carefully constructed creator format that used to take months to build, it's now being mass-produced and hijacked by faceless AI content farms who just want a piece of that lucrative finance audience. Channels like AI Upskill are explicitly teaching people how to copy successful finance creators using this exact three-step pipeline. Step 1. They feed successful video titles into Claude AI to instantly generate viral scripts and matching visual prompts. Step 2. They use a tool called Video Enu to generate and animate a consistent visual style that directly mimics popular creators. Step 3. They sync the whole thing to a hyper-realistic 11 Labs AI voiceover. What used to take a human creator days of research and editing is now just a 10-hour automated factory process.
So the crucial point is there's this massive disconnect here. Real creators and traditional advisors spend years building trust through consistency and an actual real-world financial background. But the AI clone channels, they simply hijack that trust instantly by perfectly copying the visual style. They replace actual expertise with prompt-based generated scripts, and they swap out slow, thoughtful production for mass-produced volume. They are just flooding the zone with hyperactive content designed specifically to steal your attention.
Which brings us to our final and perhaps most important question of this entire explainer. If the ultimate mathematical truth to building wealth is basically just buying a boring index fund, automating your savings, and doing absolutely nothing for 30 years, who is actually profiting from the endless hyperactive financial media, brand sponsorships, and AI-generated clone content you are consuming every single day? Is it your portfolio or is it theirs? Definitely something to think about the next time you feel the urge to open up that app and check your investments. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, focused learners, and I'll catch you on the next one.